Nightfall always carries the things that daylight never says. When the world grows quiet, the mind slowly opens its doors, allowing the deepest emotions to step inside. For Pisces, dreams are not just scattered images drifting through sleep. They are the place where silent connections finally find a voice. There are nights when you wake up with a feeling you can't quite explain. No clear reason, yet somehow, someone feels incredibly close. As if an invisible thread has gently brushed against your subconscious. Sometimes, when someone thinks of you long enough and deeply enough, that energy doesn't need words. It doesn't announce itself. It finds its way to you quietly, through a dream, and, if you are Pisces, there's a good chance you felt this before. So, let's slow down for a moment. Take a breath. Because what comes next will guide you into the space where these connections begin to form, very gently, yet unmistakably real. Dreams don't always arrive to tell a clear story. Sometimes they come softly, like a thin veil of mist drifting through the mind when everything has finally grown quiet. Nothing loud, nothing dramatic, yet just enough to wake you with a feeling that's hard to name. For many people, dreams are simply random arrangements of memory. But for Pisces, dreams often carry something deeper, as if emotion and intuition have found a safe place to speak. Pisces lives much of life in the inner world. During the day, attention is pulled toward responsibilities, roles, and expectations. But at night, the soul loosens its grip. And in that stillness, the things that never found words during the day finally have space to appear. Pisces dreams are rarely loud. They don't rush in with noise. They arrive as sensations, a familiar glance, a hazy setting, a presence without a clear shape, yet unmistakably real in the heart. Some dreams don't need to be remembered in detail. You wake up knowing only one thing: something has touched you, very gently, but deeply enough that the feeling lingers throughout the day. Not to be analyzed, not to be solved right away. Just a quiet pause, inviting you to stop and listen. For Pisces, intuition is always at work beneath the surface. You may not be able to explain why a dream softens your heart, or why it stays with you through the morning, but emotion doesn't need a reason to exist. It only asks to be acknowledged. Perhaps the dream isn't here to say that something definite is happening. Perhaps it's simply suggesting that somewhere deep within the subconscious, a connection is gently stirring. People often think of one another more than they realize. Not always in clear thoughts, but through unnamed feelings. These thoughts don't make demands. They don't ask for a response. They exist quietly. And when the mind rests, when the defenses of logic soften, emotion finds another way through. For Pisces, dreams may be the place where those feelings briefly pass through. What matters isn't what the dream means, but how you experience it. Pisces doesn't need to rush to label everything or search for absolute explanations. Your sensitivity is not a weakness. It's the ability to feel emotional layers that others often overlook. When a dream leaves an aftertaste, it may simply be reminding you that you're still deeply connected to your own emotional world. In a society that's always moving fast, allowing yourself to slow down and feel is an act of courage. Pisces is often misunderstood as a dreamer, but in truth, you're simply living a little closer to the heart. Dreams don't ask you to act. They don't ask you to believe. They don't ask you to wait for anything. They only invite you to stay with the feeling for one extra moment, long enough to understand what you truly need. And if listening to these words has softened something inside you, that may already be the greatest gift the dream brings. Not an answer, but understanding. Not a promise, but a safe space where you're allowed to be yourself. And from that quiet place, you'll know how to move forward, in a way that belongs only to Pisces. Human connection doesn't always need a clear explanation. It doesn't have to be spoken out loud, and it doesn't always show itself through action. Some connections exist quietly, operating beneath the surface, in the deeper layers of the inner world, where conscious awareness rarely reaches. In that space, thoughts no longer take the shape of words. They become sensations. They turn into a gentle current, soft, yet steady. At certain moments, someone may be giving you more attention than they even realize. Not in an intense or dramatic way, but through small moments that slip into the mind when they finally relax. When defenses fall away. When control loosens its grip. Emotions that were never named find room to move. And in that quiet space, your presence may appear like something familiar, not loud. but impossible to ignore. Pisces often doesn't need proof to sense this. You don't grasp it through logic, but through a feeling that belongs only to you. It might be a brief vibration in the chest, an emotion that rises, then fades as quickly as a breath. Not clear enough to confirm, yet deep enough to make you pause for a few seconds and wonder something just touched me, even though no one said a word. The human subconscious holds far more than we imagine. It remembers glances, tones of voice, emotions, silences that were never filled. When conscious thought rests, the subconscious begins telling its own story. Incomplete thoughts, unfinished emotions. They look for ways to meet each other on a very different level. Not to deliver a clear message, but simply to exist. For Pisces, the ability to sense these subtle movements is something natural. You may notice that you're more sensitive than others, more easily touched by the smallest things. But that sensitivity is exactly what allows you to recognize connections that others overlook. It is an imagination. It doesn't need to be proven. It's an inner experience, arriving and leaving according to its own rhythm. What matters most is not rushing to interpret it. A connection at this depth doesn't ask you to act immediately. It doesn't demand a specific meaning. It exists as a neutral feeling, not good, not bad. And when you allow yourself to observe without judgment, you're honoring your own inner world. Pisces carries a deep capacity for empathy. You don't just feel your own emotions. You easily tune into the emotional state of others. When someone thinks of you in silence, you may sense it unconsciously through subtle shifts in how you feel. Not always clear, but enough to create a quiet sense of connection. In modern life, we're used to searching for quick answers, but connections that come from the subconscious don't work that way. They aren't pressured to be clear. They don't need to be named. They exist as part of the human experience, where emotions are allowed to be vague and unfinished. If you're Pisces and you find yourself easily moved by very subtle signs, consider it a gift. You don't need to understand everything right now. Just know this. Your ability to feel emotional depth is a form of intelligence, and through that quiet listening, you'll slowly learn to trust your own rhythm, naturally, gently, and deeply human. There are moments when people aren't even aware that their mind keeps drifting back to someone. Not through clear thoughts, not through deliberate intention. Just in the smallest gaps of a long day, that image quietly appears, then fades away. Not long enough to be named, not clear enough to be recognized, yet deep enough to leave a trace in the heart. Emotions tend to gather this way, silently. They don't knock on the door, they don't ask for attention. They simply stay there, waiting for the right moment to be touched. When life is busy with work, responsibility, and constant motion, unfinished emotions step aside. They don't disappear. They wait. And when night arrives, when everything softens, when the body rests and the mind loosens its grip, emotion begins to rise to the surface, not to deliver a clear message, but simply to exist. And dreams become a safe space for that. A place where feelings don't have to make sense, where they don't need answers, they only need to be felt. For Pisces, the boundary between thought and feeling has always been thin. You don't always separate what you think from what you feel. Those two worlds naturally blend together. When an emotion grows strong but has never been named, it may drift into a dream just to breathe. Not because someone intentionally sends it, simply because the emotion has found a place to rest. The other person may not even realize they're carrying your image with them. They may only sense a vague familiarity, a gentle feeling with no clear origin. But emotion doesn't need permission from logic to exist. It moves according to its own rhythm, very slowly, very deeply. And when the space is quiet enough, it can reach you in ways you never expected. This doesn't mean that something certain is happening. It doesn't promise a specific outcome. It simply opens a very human possibility. That among the many connections in life, some don't need words. That sometimes emotion finds its voice not through conversation, but through the hazy images of sleep. Pisces often senses these things earlier than others. Not because you're more special, but because you allow yourself to feel. You don't rush to dismiss subtle sensations. You don't need everything to be clear right away. That acceptance makes it easier to notice when something gently touches your inner world. When thought transforms into feeling, it no longer carries the shape of a story or a memory. It becomes a state, a sensation difficult to describe, yet undeniably real. You may wake up with a nameless longing. You may feel softer inside, or heavier, without knowing why. Moments like these don't need explanation. They only need to be heard. In a society accustomed to analyzing and concluding, allowing emotion to exist without labeling it is a brave choice. Pisces does this naturally. You understand that not every experience needs to be defined. Some emotions only need to pass through, leaving you gentler and more compassionate with yourself. If you're here now, listening to this story, you may not need an answer. Just know this: your emotions matter, even when they're unclear. When you allow thought to become feeling, you allow yourself to live more fully within your inner world. And through that listening, you slowly come to understand that the sensitivity of Pisces is not a weakness. It's a source of strength, one that allows you to connect more deeply with life in a way that is uniquely yours, quiet, gentle, and deeply real. The message of this journey doesn't come asking you to believe. It doesn't pressure you to act, and it doesn't require you to make a decision right now. It carries no commands. It doesn't draw a fixed path. It doesn't tell you what you should do next. All it does is open a quiet space, a space calm enough for you to return to your own feelings and listen to what's happening inside. Sometimes we grow used to searching for clear signs, a definite answer, a solid signal that tells us when to move forward or when to step back. But the connections that truly matter rarely arrive that loudly. They usually come softly, almost unnoticed. And if we don't slow down, we may pass right by them without ever realizing. For Pisces, gentleness doesn't mean uncertainty. It's a form of refinement, an ability to sense the smallest emotional shifts. Changes so subtle they're almost invisible. You may not be able to name what you're feeling, but you know something is quietly stirring within you, like still water suddenly forming a single ripple. The message here is simply an invitation to observe, not to judge, to feel, not to conclude. When you allow yourself to stay with an emotion just a little longer without needing to understand it right away, you give your inner world space to speak, not through words, but through presence. There are days when you wake up and something inside feels different, not exactly sad, not clearly joyful, just the sense that something is moving within. These moments are often overlooked because they're not dramatic enough to demand attention, yet their quiet nature holds more meaning than we often realize. The most important things in life rarely arrive with noise. Pisces often feels safest when not being pushed, when no one asks you to become a different version of yourself, to react according to a fixed script. You bloom best in spaces that allow you to slow down, that let you feel at your own pace. And the signs that truly belong to you will arrive the same way, softly, without demands. Observing your own emotions is a deeply human act. It reminds you that not every inner movement needs to turn into action. Some feelings only need to be acknowledged, then allowed to pass, like a cloud drifting across the sky. You don't need to hold on to it. You don't need to push it away. You only need to know that it was there. In modern society, we're often pushed to respond quickly, to decide early, to prove something. But inner life doesn't move at that speed. It requires time. It requires patience. And it requires gentleness toward yourself. Pisces understands this instinctively, even if you sometimes forget that it's a strength. Gentle signs don't come to control you. They don't place responsibility on you to be right or wrong. They exist simply as reminders that you're still connected to your emotional world. And when you allow that connection to unfold naturally, you're nurturing the healthiest relationship of all, the relationship with yourself. You may not find an answer right after listening to this, and that's completely okay. Not every experience needs to end with a conclusion. Some only need to be felt. And then trusted to time. The things that truly matter are rarely in a hurry. They arrive when you're ready, in a way that is gentle, quiet, and clear enough that you recognize them without anyone needing to say a word. Pisces often experiences the world in a very different way. Not through what is clearly spoken, but through the spaces between words. You notice a gaze that lingers just a second longer, a voice that slows down when someone touches an old memory, a subtle shift in the atmosphere of a room. Details that may pass unnoticed for others tend to stay with you, quietly and meaningfully. This sensitivity isn't always comfortable. There are days when it feels like you're carrying too much emotion. as if the outside world enters you faster than you can fully understand it. Yet that same sensitivity allows you to reach depths that not everyone is ready to face. You don't need explanations to understand. You understand through presence. If you find yourself resonating with this story, it may not be because of the words themselves. It may be because something familiar inside you has been gently touched, a sense that your intuition is speaking, not loudly, not urgently. Just a soft reminder that you've felt things like this before, and you know that feeling is real, even if it's hard to name. Pisces intuition works best when you allow yourself to slow down, when you stop searching for immediate answers, when you don't rush to fill inner silence with outside noise. In that quiet space, you begin to recognize what truly belongs to you and what doesn't. You don't have to believe every emotion that appears. You only need to listen long enough to understand what you actually need. There are times when looking for answers outside yourself can feel comforting. Advice, opinions, familiar frameworks can ease confusion, at least temporarily. But for Pisces, true clarity rarely comes from the outside. It usually appears when you dare to trust your own inner sense, even when it feels unclear. Sensitivity is not a sign of weakness. It's the ability to receive information on a different frequency. When you sense what hasn't been spoken, you're given the chance to respond with understanding rather than judgment. You see the person behind the behavior. You recognize that everyone carries a private story, even when they don't share it. This softens your world. It makes it more humane. Listening to yourself doesn't mean closing off from life. It's how you step into the world with greater steadiness. When you understand your own emotions, you're less likely to be pulled by the emotions of others. When you trust your intuition, you don't need to prove it to anyone. You simply live according to your inner rhythm. Pisces often has a habit of giving a great deal. You naturally place the feelings of others before your own. But your unique sensitivity also needs care. Listening to yourself is how you keep that energy from running dry. You don't have to carry everything. You only need enough honesty to recognize when you need rest and when you need quiet. When intuition grows stronger, it doesn't ask you to change your life overnight. It simply invites awareness. Awareness of repeating feelings. Awareness of what soothes you. Awareness of moments when you feel most like yourself. From that awareness, clarity arrives naturally. And if you're listening to these words and feel a gentle sense of alignment, take it as confirmation that you don't need to search very far. The answers you're looking for may already be there, in how you feel, in the sensitivity you once thought was too much. When you learn to trust that, you'll begin to see that Pisces sensitivity isn't just a trait. It's a source of strength, one that allows you to live more deeply, connect more honestly, and move forward with confidence on a path that is uniquely your own. This video was never created to give you a final answer about anything. It's closer to a quiet room, a place where you can sit down, slow your breathing, and allow your emotions to exist without needing an explanation. In a world that's always rushing forward, choosing to give yourself a moment of stillness is already an act of courage. If in recent days you've noticed your sleep growing deeper, or your dreams carrying a lingering presence, meet that experience with gentleness. There's no need to analyze it. No need to assign it a specific meaning. Just allow it to exist as part of being alive. Some connections don't arrive to change your life overnight. They come to remind you that you're still feeling, still living from the heart. Pisces often carries a natural urge to search for meaning behind every emotion. But sometimes, the greatest meaning lies in the moment you allow yourself to feel without judgment. A connection that appears in a dream doesn't ask you to act. It doesn't ask you to wait. It simply exists, naturally, like water passing through, leaving behind a quiet sense of relief. Life has its own rhythm. What truly belongs to you never needs to be forced. It finds its way when the time is right. When you push yourself to understand too quickly, to grasp too tightly, you create pressure where none is needed. But when you allow things to unfold at their own pace, you're trusting the natural flow of life. Not every connection needs a name. Not every emotion needs to be brought into the light. Some things only need to be felt, and then trusted to time. Pisces has a rare gift for this, even if you sometimes forget it's a gift. Your softness doesn't make you weak. It allows you to adapt, to understand, and to protect your humanity in the most difficult moments. As you leave this space, you don't need to carry a clear conclusion with you. Just take a sense of calm. And if something has gently touched you during this listening journey, allow it to stay in its own way. No rushing, no forcing. What needs to remain will remain. And if a connection is appearing in your dreams, let it exist naturally, the way you let a breath come and go. Life is full of things that demand effort, but what arrives at the right time doesn't need to be held on to. It will find its way into your life softly, quietly, and exactly when you are ready to receive it.